Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and I just got back from Spain. So that's why I wasn't around for a week, but here I am. I am back, and we are going to talk all about the Tao Te Ching. Well, all about. We're going to spend a little time taking your numbers. So if you have a number between 1 and 81 that's just popping in your mind, definitely come up and let's have a chat about that. That number is going to relate to a verse or a chapter in the Tao Te Ching. It was interesting. I was talking to someone the other day about well, what if there are numbers that people just don't ask? And I say, well, those just might not be in our current line of needing to address. And so that's kind of how I look at it. So it's like picking a number or picking a number out of a pot where all the numbers are. Maybe there's going to be differences. I might even open up a random number generator. So if you wanted to just, let AI take care of picking your number for you. Either way, any number that you pick, any verse that you get is going to be for you. And even if you're here just listening, the fact that you're listening to this right now is proof that, or it's not proof, but it just means that this is the experience you're supposed to be having. This is where you're supposed to be. You're always where you're supposed to be. A lot of people like to look at how the world victimizes them. But if we look at it from a different perspective, we look at it as this is exactly what I'm supposed to be experiencing. What is the experience? Number one. Number two, what is the story I'm telling about this experience? And how can I grow from it? Or how can what is there for me to learn from it? A lot of people I talk to is oh, there's nothing to learn here. There's nothing. But if you approach everything from the standpoint of there is a teacher that you can't see. And this could be God. You could relate this to God, sure. And this is a lesson. And you're not going to get, well, that's not true, really. But, you're not going to get tested traditionally on it. But, if you have a divorce, let's say you get in a relationship, you treat that relationship like a transaction. You get a divorce. And then you go to your next relationship and you treat that relationship like a transaction. Did you learn the lesson? This is a test, right? Your entire life is sort of lessons and tests. And you can go ahead and fail the next relationship again. And you can fail at, and it's not failing, right? Because they are lessons. Now, the idea is to pick up as many lessons as you can in this life. Pick up as much information as you can throughout every situation that you go through. I learned a lot by getting diagnosed with MS. I had MS. I was bedridden for a month. In that situation, I had a lot to learn. I had a lot to learn about the physical things of the world, diet, mindset, exercise, all of those sorts of things. But I also had things to learn about myself. You see, when I was diagnosed with MS, I lost a huge portion of the motor function on my left side. And the left side is feminine, right? That's in the world of energy, healing, and all of that. Milagros is going to join me, and we'll talk a little bit more about something that we might have sparked. Milagros, Matthias?
Yes, call me Millie.
Millie, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Are you familiar with the Tao Te Ching or the Tao of the Day?
No.
Let me give you a little bit of a primer then. This is a program I've been doing on Wisdom and now Noom Vibe for a couple years. What I do is I invite you up, we introduce ourselves a little bit, and then I ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81, and then we read through that chapter of the Tao together and break it down into its components and how it might be related to what's going on in your life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what's going on in your life right now?
Same old, same old. Work,
Same old, same old.
family, normal stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, just off of that, let's go ahead and pick a number between 1 and 81. What's your number?
73.
73. How is your family?
My family is okay. My daughter's going through some stuff, but she's getting better.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go ahead and read 73. Um, it's not too long, so not bad. The longest they get is like 200, 250 words. This is probably about 150. So,
Okay.
and I'll let you know when I'm done.
Okay.
There are men who love feeling, and to feel, they kill. There are men who love feeling, and to do so, they remain calm. Who is to say which will experience more turmoil? There is purpose in walking with death, as there is in walking with life. The inner workings of Tao can never be understood. It makes no commands, yet all things come on their own accord. It never acts, but all things act on its behalf. It is empty, yet within it lays all things and their master plans.
Hmm.
Tao is a net holding all things together, connected. Its mesh is wide, but it holds so well, nothing falls through. That's it. What do you think?
Interesting.
This
Interesting.
this 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 really kind of stands out. Like when you mentioned your daughter, it kind of stands out that like your daughter is still being held, even though she's going through stuff. And we can't say what's right for her.
Yes, I agree.
And so that's what's really popping out at me from what we spoke about, right? Like, there are men who love feeling, and to feel they kill. Whatever it is they're killing. They may even kill their emotions because they need to be able to feel. Like when I was younger, I got 23 years clean and sober. So that's a big aspect of my kind of history and how I came to work with Tao. And then it says, there are men who love feeling, and to do so they remain calm. And maybe that's avoiding, but there's always different ways to feel. There's always different ways to approach it. And like that's why this next line is so crucial. Who's to say which will experience more turmoil?
Hmm. I feel sometimes turmoil is necessary
Oh yes, absolutely.
because it creates change.
Right. But a lot of times we try to avoid it.
Mm-mm.
We try and skirt it. We're like, I don't want to experience turmoil, so I'm going to go ahead and get a college degree. Because in a college degree, I'll make more money and I'll have all these things. And I'm making up a story about my future without being here in the present.
Yes, sir.
And then we're going to go ahead and get a college degree. And how much turmoil has been caused in the world because here in the United States, at least, everybody is in debt with college degree money.
Yeah.
So as you have tried to experience like the avoiding of turmoil, you go ahead and embrace it in this
Hmm.
way of, who's to say which will experience more turmoil?
I
It's funny.
agree.
I have a sister who went to school and has a job and all of this, has children. I don't have children. She's 11 months older than I am. She and I, growing up, a lot of people were like, "Oh, your sister is prepared for the world." Dot dot dot. But my life is happy.
Yes.
Yes, I experienced a lot of turmoil early in my life, but that turmoil led me to learning lessons that I have never forgotten and continue to help me um, be vigilant in my living today, and be strong and be resilient.
Yes. Yes. I believe that turmoil is opportunity. I don't see it as a negative.
That's right.
Opportunity to learn something, to change something, instead of wallowing in the turmoil.
That's right. And there are times that turmoil doesn't look like turmoil.
Hmm.
Turmoil can look like a $600,000 a year job.
Hmm.
A
But you don't know
turmoil,
what else that brings.
right? You don't know, but leaving that, right? You have no idea
Yeah.
what being in that is if you don't have that. But turmoil could be at the center of all that. And then
Mm-hmm.
the person that is having that turmoil doesn't want to leave it because they're afraid of what they're going to face, but you don't know what that is.
Exactly. Exactly.
Then this continues and says, there is purpose in walking with death as there is in walking with life. The
Mm-hmm.
inner workings of Tao can never be understood. So there's struggles and that's what you're saying too, right? With the idea of
Yeah.
like your turmoil, even though you don't know what it is and where it's gonna come from or whatever, that's your lesson. And this is the thing, like the inner workings of Tao can never be understood. The background of our lives, the things that are happening without our knowing, they can never
Mm-hmm.
be understood. So we have to be here just ready to receive.
Yes. Yes. That's what I say to her all the time. Did you think a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you would be where you are today? No. So don't worry so much about 5 years down the road or 10 because life is very unpredictable.
Yeah. Life is going to happen.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
and you are going to live with grace and
Mm-hmm.
every moment. And if you tell the story that you're a victim, you will just see more and more opportunities for you to be a victim.
Yes. My sentiments exactly.
This continues and says, it makes no commands, yet all things come on their own accord, come to Tao on their own
Mm-hmm.
accord. It doesn't demand people do it. You come to it, even if you don't call it Tao, even if you don't, but you come to this space where you're seeing, where it's just like, no, this is a lesson, this is an opportunity, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
It never acts, but all things act on its behalf. The things that you're doing, whether or not that's judging your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's learning from the lessons that your daughter is bringing or loving your daughter through it from a distance or really close. I mean, I don't know the situation, but sometimes those things are necessary. And whatever it is you're doing, you're acting on behalf of Tao for her in her life. Her life is a gift received from Tao, and you are sustained and inspired for that gift. Now, your life is also a gift from Tao, and she is inspired to act in the way that she's acting to aid your life and your lessons and your experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I do that. I see what she's going through and kind of figure out, so what is the lesson in her life for me? Because we're
Bingo.
all connected, aren't we?
That's right. That's right. It is one big happy being having all of these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And you are close to this because she has lessons for you.
Yep.
And whether or not she is going to learn the lessons you have for her in your presence it doesn't matter. We want that. We with egos and stuff, I want you to learn the lesson that I'm teaching you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to learn it in their own time, and that's what this is saying.
Yes. Yes. That's what
And
I've come to accept.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's such and
Look,
as
I
this
got
one
goosebumps.
and as this one starts wrapping up, it just says Tao is a net holding all things together, connected.
Mhm.
It is
Yes. Yes.
its
Yes.
mesh is wide, but it holds so well, nothing falls through.
Yes.
Its mesh is wide because your daughter has to make choices that are different from you.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a wide mesh to be able to be under the influence of your parents and then make different choices.
Yes.
So my timer is weird. You're going to get bumped out on my end. Please, you just got bumped out and I can't hear you anymore. But please come back up and we can wrap this up. Unless you have to go or whatever. I don't know if you can. You might have to swipe left and then refresh. I'm not exactly sure how it goes on your end. For whatever reason, my timer is is a little funky. But Shannon, thank you for following. I appreciate that. And yeah, so as this one wraps up, I'm going to go ahead and read that last line again. Millie, right? That's
Yes.
how you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I got that correct. Tao is a net holding all things together, connected. Its mesh is wide, but holds so well, nothing falls through. So, when we pick Tao, it's kind of like picking a tarot card. When you pick a number, the number that comes to you. So the Tao is a text that was written 600 BCE, but presumably by a guy Lao Tzu. I don't like to think about facts too
Right.
much when it comes to it, because the text is amazing. And the way that I use it is just through essentially like faith that you're going to pick the one that you need to know when you need to know it.
Right.
And this is the one that you needed to hear. What I like to do is take this text and put it in a little message to you on this app so that you have it and you can
Okay.
refer back to it. If I don't do that, because, life gets in the way sometimes.
Hmm.
Like if you don't see it by tomorrow, please just shoot me a little message and I'll do my best to get it up for you.
Okay.
Millie, thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about this verse or read it again or anything?
No, that's great, but I appreciate reading it again if you send it to me. But I think it was very enlightening.
Well, very good. And I'm glad that we got a chance to connect. Hopefully we'll do that again sometime soon. Millie, you have a wonderful day. My
You
best to your
too.
daughter
Thank
and
you.
and everything that's going on in the home.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Ciao.
Bye.
Okay, so here I am. So that was a perfect Tao of the day. um, this is exactly how it works. What happens is you will come up, we'll chat very briefly about what's going on in your life, and then I'll ask you to pick a number. And as you pick a number, we'll go through it and we'll start to kind of pick apart things. Millie mentioned that he got goosebumps because of how connected the energy and the words and the text was to what he needs to know, and he is on a beautiful path of understanding this. This is text that I've been reading for over 20 years. It's a big part of my recovery, and it's a wonderful way to just be curious. I had an experience over the last week, was it, or so? I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, it was over the last week, and where I was with my niece, who very much unconscious, right? Unconscious of her actions, unconscious of her body, unconscious of, how what it's like to interact with people. I went to Spain to visit family, and she came with, and it was a great visit, but she hid in her room and yes, it's uncomfortable to be around people that don't speak the same language as you. But it's important to be able to recognize. And if we were to take this verse in her situation, there are men who love feeling and to feel they kill. Well, when you feel too much, you have to run away, you have to escape, you have to kill the sensation. And in order to actually have feelings, you have to stop some of them so that you can decipher what's going on. There are men who love feeling, and to do so, they remain calm. Well, does that outright doesn't make sense. They love to feel, but they remain calm. They remain calm so that they can actually know what is important, because you can feel from anything. You can feel from listening to this. You can feel from watching a movie. You can feel from having people celebrate your birthday. All of those feelings that are happening can get in the way of what's actually happening to you. internally, right? That part that's connected. Who is to say which will experience more turmoil, whether you avoid by killing or staying calm or actually having huge feelings, right? There are lots of ways to decipher this text. There are men who love feeling, and to feel they kill. We can talk about murderers this way. It's like, I need to feel because I'm so numbed out, and they may go out and hurt others so that they can feel. There are men who love feeling, and to do so they remain calm. They step out and they disconnect. Who's to say which will experience more turmoil? There is purpose in walking with death as there is in walking with life. A lot of people from the 70s on really kind of said, well, if it doesn't make me happy, I'm going to get rid of it. Well, that doesn't bode well for things that don't make you happy. And what the hell do you know about happiness? Happiness is a word, but it means something. It's connected to certain energetic signatures that you are describing as happy. And so when you say, oh, well, I'm not going to do anything that makes me happy, but there is purpose in experiencing things that maybe aren't connected directly to happiness. There is purpose there. There is purpose in walking with death as there is in walking with life. Why? Because the inner workings of Tao can never be understood. You don't know what you're going to get. Trust me, I learned the most, the things that helped me learn the most about life, about this philosophy of, it's not even a philosophy, about Tao, right? About everything that I do today is my recovery. So being in addiction for 13 years and my MS and having lost, a third of my motor function and been bedridden for a month. Those were the things that taught me most. So many people, and this can relate back to my niece who went to Spain with me, like, she knows everything. She knows. We were in Spain, and I said, oh, you might want to try a churro and chocolate. She's like, I don't really like churros that much. It's just like, whoa. But you've never had a churro. She's like, yeah, I did at the fair. I'm like, whoa. I didn't say anything. At that point, I was like, oh, okay. I just let it go. She had a churro at the fair. It is not churros and chocolate from Spain. But she knew better. She knew she doesn't like churros, so off you go. Eventually, she'll learn. Eventually, she'll look something up and be like, whoa, churros and chocolate. Well, that's something that lots of people love in Spain. Like, that's a Spanish thing. And then she'll be like, oh, I was in Spain once visiting family and didn't know about that. It's interesting when you let people just do what they want to do. They will, like, I'm not here to give her a cultural experience. I'm here to give her the opportunity to have a cultural experience. I'm not going to tell her what it's going to be. I'm not going to describe it. I'm not going to tell her how to do it. She has the internet. If she wants to do research, she can. My whole goal was just to visit family, which I did, and it was amazing. I don't know what her goal was, but my goal was to visit family and connect her to them. The inner workings of Tao can never be understood. What Tao is doing in her life, how her life is going to unfold, is not my concern. I will give her the opportunity to receive. And that's something that I had to learn a lot, is how to receive. How to receive the life that you're living rather than trying to control it. A lot of us really like the idea of like, oh, I'm going to control my life. I'm going to have this job. I'm going to have this career. I'm going to have this, that. And I'm going to have all of these things. But it's not. Like, you don't have any of this stuff. You're simply receiving. You're receiving the experiences that you're having. And as you receive them, you continue to learn, like Millie and I were talking about, right? Like this idea of like, oh, I am here. I am receiving this experience and I am learning. I think I might have said turn, but you're learning every moment. You're learning about who you are, about the life you're leading, about the life you're living. And as you learn, as you embrace the receiving end of your life, you have such a more open experience to all that you are. The inner workings of Tao can never be understood. So just because you're having a bad week, or just because, it wasn't long ago. I had like 3 days in a row that I was just sad. I was just like, oh, I'm sad. And I didn't try to put story to it as to why I was sad or when it would go away. I didn't even care, really. I just noticed. I was like, oh, I'm sad. I'm going to go and I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to, continue, making my kombucha, or making, fermenting my food and doing the things that I do, and just living my life, seeing my friends or whatever. And if I didn't feel like doing something, okay, maybe I didn't. Maybe I spent a little more time sleeping. But I didn't wallow in the idea that, oh, I'm sad, let me stay sad. Or let me try and find a reason that I'm sad. I just let it be. I was sad. I recognized it, and I continued anyway. Whether you're happy or sad, you're still going to have to do things like, whatever the things are that you do. I mean, I know when you're sad, it's harder to clean, right? When you're sad, but you do have to do those things, and they can help. That kind of goes along with Viktor Frankl. If you guys know who Viktor Frankl is, he was the father of logotherapy, which is purpose therapy that revolves around purpose. If you lose your purpose, you lose your life. And purpose isn't something that you can put your finger on and express, just like this. The inner workings of Tao can never be understood. And if you can't get out of bed and do laundry, that's okay. But if that happens for multiple days and multiple weeks, at some point you have to override. You have to call the audible, and you have to do it, whatever that is. And this is why it says, it makes no commands, yet all things come on their own accord. You will eventually do that laundry one day, or you will call somebody to have it done. It will get done one day. But every day you don't do it, it becomes a bigger problem. And this is the same thing with consciousness of self. The quicker you can become conscious of yourself and your actions and how you're living, the easier it is for you to grow that trait. I was talking to my nephew one time, and he was going through a stage of lying, and I talked to him about practice. And I said, do you want to become an adult who lies? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe you don't want to practice being a liar when you're a child. If you want to be an adult who doesn't lie, don't practice lying. If you want to be someone who can play guitar, you practice playing guitar. If you want to be someone that, everything in your life can be seen as practice. One thing after the next. And you can practice in this idea of, like that's what the whole 70s thing of if it makes me upset, I'm not going to do it, really revolves around. It's, well, if I don't like this thing, whatever it is, I'm going to avoid doing it. So I'm going to practice being happy more. And there is merits to that. However, there is also practice on, hey, what you did made me upset. Can I practice not getting upset about that and add awareness to what it is that actually made me upset? It wasn't you. You didn't make me upset. It was something that you said that reacted in me that made me upset. And of course, there's plenty of examples out there in the world where it's like, oh, you physically did something to me. And then, we have other conversations around that, but there is purpose in walking with death as there is in walking with life. The inner workings of Tao can never be understood. Once again, Millie came up earlier and we had a great conversation around this verse, number 73, nothing falls through. And I'm continuing to talk about it a little bit, but I invite you up to pick a number of your own between 1 and 81. And how it works is we'll just sit and we'll chat a little bit about what Tao is. We'll chat a little bit about what's going on in your life, and then we'll pick a number and we'll see how that all relates to what's going on in your life. This one continues, it makes no commands, yet all things come on their own accord. You will find your way to Tao one way or another, because that's the direction you're headed. This is the direction we're all headed, because we're all connected. It makes no commands, yet all things come on their own accord. It never acts, but all things act on its behalf. Tao doesn't do anything. And then there's a line in the Tao that says, yet through it all things are done. This line resembles that and is very much pointing in the same direction. The idea that you are inspired to act through Tao. So yes, we can say your sadness is inspired by Tao. And we can also say that your leaning into your sadness is inspired by Tao. And we can also say that your depression is inspired by Tao. Now, earlier in this conversation, I was talking about the idea of learning from the lessons of your life. And Millie and I talked deeply about that. And that's what this is really like. This one ends by saying nothing falls through. Nothing falls through the mesh that Tao has laid over the universe. And that mesh, that net, is holding us. If we lose faith in that, if we start having faith in the physical, if we start having faith in the internet, if we start having more faith in the internet than we have in ourselves and what we're connected to, we will be depressed. We will get sad, because those things are acting for our best interest, and we are acting for the best interest of the manifestation, the best interest of the world as it seems to be, not as it actually is, because as it actually is within us. It's deep within us. And that is our connection to all things, and we're being held by the expanse of Tao. And there is nothing that we do that is not connected to Tao. So whether we're good people or bad people, it doesn't matter. The things that we do are inspired by Tao. But it's not Tao's fault. It's our lives and our responsibility to do those things inspired by Tao, to step forward into the inspiration that Tao holds for us, so that we can be all that we are. Some people say that Tao, or the universe, has plans for us that we'll never be able to achieve. And we have plans for the universe that it will never achieve. Right? So we say, we want to be a millionaire. Tao's like, well, that's not actually going to help you in any way. This is what's going to help you. This is what's going to help you figure your role, your purpose, your life out. And it's so beautiful. Once again, Tao Te Ching, written 600 BCE. So much of this, is what, and so everything, everything that happens is happening as part of a whole. I did lose track of my thoughts because a message popped up, but thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. If anybody wants to come up, I still have more time, so I would love to have you come up and pick a number between 1 and 81. It's always great to be able to talk. I mean, I don't know if you guys were here for the conversation I had with Millie, but it was good. We talked about his daughter. We talked about how we have to make sure that we trust our lives enough that we can trust other people with their lives, so that we don't have to think that we're controlling their lives. And that's hard for a parent. My mom would love to control my life, but she has learned that I do a better job. I do a much better job at controlling my life than she could ever do, because I'm not interested in doing the things that she wants to do. So everything she wants me to do, if I do those things, I will only be going through the motions. And I don't ever want to go through the motions in my life again. Going through the motions is giving up your life, right? And when we talk about Viktor Frankl, logotherapy, the Tao, other things like that, we really get into the idea that being here, present in this moment with purpose, meaning that I have to do laundry, and that's okay, and I'll do that. And I got home from Spain yesterday, and the first thing I did was start pulling weeds, because my yard, I mean, it was even drizzling out a little bit. Then someone stepped out of my neighbor's house and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" You get back and you start working right away. And I was just like, well, it just needs to be done. And then he offered me a bowl of soup. We sat, we ate, we chatted. He left. This morning I woke up at 3 a.m. I'm like, oh man, that's my jet lag stuff, right? And then first thing I do, clean my gutters, because it's spring and I got maple seeds all up in there. There's always something to do right now. And if not, we can just sit, be still, and wait for inspiration to come. Every time I do that, I always like sit and I'm still. And then all of a sudden, like somewhere along the line, I find myself, I don't even remember making the decision. I find myself doing something like cleaning the dishes. I go, there is something to be done. There's always something to be done. And I hope you're doing it right now. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. We do have somebody. Jacqueline Kelly wants to join. We'll see. Sometimes people join accidentally. Let's see if Jacqueline wants to chat a little bit. Jacqueline, how are you? Jacqueline Kelly, are you with me? So this happens. I think Noom Vibe is new, and what Noom Vibe, what these live programs are opportunities for you to speak with me. So you can come up and we can chat. Jacqueline, I just heard a little something.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my AirPods aren't working, and I hope you could hear me because I'm
I
outside.
can hear you. Thank you so much for joining.
Um, so I don't know, when you guys were talking, the number 17 was coming in my head. So,
Okay, well, let's look at 17. What's going on with you today?
nothing much. I'm out walking.
Oh, very nice. Okay, this one is entitled Of Masters and Leaders. It's about the same length as the last one. So let me go ahead and read it, and then we'll have a little chat. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Then those whom the people loved led the way. Having created the position, after having created the position, the people feared their leaders. Then they despised them. Having created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. Having become a leader, his trust in the people was diminished. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. She works day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, "Amazing, we did it all by ourselves." So what does that say to you? You're currently muted. I don't know if you have a call or... Okay, because Jack...
Well,
Oh, there you are.
sorry about that. So,
Quite all right.
yeah, it's interesting because, as a parent, you talk a lot about, how your parents impacted you and different things like that, and trying to control. And it's out of love, right, that we do stuff like that. But trying to find the best way to embark wisdom, to help guide, right or wrong, is always challenging, but also allows space for self-discovery, allows space for them to make mistakes,
Yes.
because that's your own. I don't want you don't want your kid to constantly fall down and hurt themselves. metaphorically speaking and
Right.
physically. That's just
Yeah.
that because you care so much for them. And that's always a challenge, right? To find that balance with the quote unquote governing process.
Right.
And that I think rings very true for me. And that's something that's kind of evolved over time for me. I'm a lot better than I was.
We
Years.
grow over time. It's not, and that's why we have children when we're young, because we need to screw them up, because
Yeah.
they need to do their work. We can't just create a bunch of Jesuses or
Yeah.
I don't know, like. So it's so important that they have work to do because they're doing work for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah. And that's a cool way to think about it and it's true. I mean, I do see a lot of that in my kid. And I actually had a unique situation where I have two children. One is very young and one is older and navigating college and such. So
Oh, wow.
it's funny to have that. I don't like to say do-over because it's kind of has a negative connotation, but to have that experience again or an opportunity again to kind of navigate that. Now, people are different. So,
Absolutely.
their personalities are very different. And
And you're
trying to
different now too, it should be said.
very much so. Very much so. And it's funny. I don't know if it was you or somewhere, but allowing people to change. Somebody was talking about that at one point. And it's very true because I don't know that we do allow people to change very well often. I know I'm kind of guilty of it as well because you have these expectations and letting those expectations go is hard.
Well, one
Um,
thing I just had an experience with my 19-year-old niece, and one thing that I have to keep telling my sister and my mom and others is that, look, I know she's going to grow and change, and she has gone through this experience, which is, difficult for her. It looks on the outside like she's being a bitch, but she's just going through something, creating the lesson that she's going to learn from. It's my responsibility and their responsibility to allow our idea of her to change,
yeah.
because she is going to change regardless. Are we going to keep her in a box in our minds, thinking that she's never going to grow? We have to be open to receiving her as she continues to grow and change.
Yep, I agree 100%. I can totally relate to that comment, and it's very important for them and for you,
Yeah.
because you
Right.
would want the same courtesy when you make a change in your life. You've
Absolutely.
worked for this, and I think we just kind of get stuck in that old. But that navigation is very difficult, and especially at that age that you're talking about, that 19,
Yeah.
because I can relate to that too, because they're adults, they're doing their own thing, and you need to give them that space because you kind of you have to relinquish the control. You can opt not to, but it never ends well in my
Right.
opinion.
That's just going to cause turmoil, as we were talking earlier with Millie.
Yeah, and that's something that a lesson that comes up a lot for me is I think growing up I didn't have a lot of control over a lot of things,
Right.
even into my early adulthood. And mostly what happened was as I got into a certain age where I could control things, and I kind of you get kind of almost obsessed with it, and you start
Right.
trying to control everything, and then you start wondering, why do I have all this anxiety? Well, because you're trying to control stuff. You're trying to control everything, and
Yeah.
everything's not in your control. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
Nothing is in your control
yeah.
but how you react to what's going on around you.
Yeah, and that's the part, and then trying to unravel all of that as I move into the next phase of my life, and
Yeah.
it's an interesting dynamic, but I guess you can apply that verse also to governing yourself and how
Absolutely.
you let things happen and how you kind of respond to things. And, I'm starting to realize, we get caught up in emotion, I think, and, oh, well, I can't help how I feel. Well, kind of, you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what I
Well,
mean?
you
Like,
kind of can.
you
Like
kind of can, yeah.
yeah. It's just it's not easy, and
Yes,
it takes
yes,
practice. But since you
yes,
haven't practiced, it's sometimes like, well, I'm not good at basketball, so I'm just never going to play. Well,
yeah,
that's one way of going about it.
yeah.
Another
It's
way of going about it is to
morning.
just play but be bad,
Yeah,
or practice.
yeah. And it's very true. I mean, those are things that I'm definitely um, figuring out. And you go through phases and you go through stages, and it's funny because, you know, not that I'm trying to unwind and unwinding a lot of that. People are expecting certain things out of me. This
Right.
anxious ball. Somebody said to me recently, "Don't get on your kids' roller coaster because they're fine." They
Yeah.
go up and down and you jump on and you're on that roller coaster and you can't get off. You're locked in. And I was
Right.
like, wow, I was like, that's really a good advice. Very simple, you
Yeah.
know, but it's very hard to practice. And I thought that was very interesting. And, recently I had a situation and, I chose not to get on the roller coaster. And like you said earlier, it was very interesting. That comment was, you have to be able to receive and the lessons that we're getting from the other person. And
Right.
that was a lesson for me, and I was so
Yeah.
proud of myself because I actually
Oh.
chose not to get on the roller coaster this time, and I put my phone down. It was late, and usually if that happens I can't sleep.
Right.
No, it didn't happen. I slept. I got up and I said we'll deal with it again. And waiting and allowing things to happen has never been my strong suit, and
Right.
I'm learning that. So,
Practice
you
makes
know,
progress.
a recovering control freak. That's what I call myself.
Yeah, wonderful. That's beautiful. I want to, but so my timer's a little funky. You got 35 seconds left on my timer. What I would like to do is just kind of bump you out and have you come back in. And it's just because there's a glitch in this, and then have you come back in and we'll wrap up. Okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Jacqueline's going to come back in, and while she's coming back in, I want to focus on this one aspect of this verse, which is having created leaders, their faith in Tao was
And
diminished.
and thank you for.
Having become,
Oh, sorry.
what's that? Go on.
Oh, I wanted to say thank you for bearing with me with my audio issues because I'm
Oh
not
no,
sure
you
what
you
happened.
sound perfect. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I like to give people time because people like Noom Vibe is new, and I just want to give people the opportunity to explore it a little bit. Sometimes people click in accidentally, and I let them go away if they don't want to talk. That's all fine. This line right in the middle, having created leaders. So if we're going to talk about children, their faith in Tao was diminished. Children at a certain age, their parents are there to guide them and to feed them and to support them and to help them survive and all of those things. But if you start looking at your parents as leaders, as the ones who are going to give you the answer, then their faith in Tao or their faith in themselves is diminished. Having become a leader, and we can look at this as parents, his trust in the people was diminished. This means the trust that you have that your child knows what's best for it is diminished. And this is where the relationship between a parent and child really has to ride a really thin line of like, I need to grow faith in myself, so I need to trust that I know what's best for me, and yet sometimes I get in trouble for doing things that I think I want to be doing. But as a parent, it's like, I know that, oftentimes, you mentioned earlier that we do all these things out of love. And then you talked about something where it was just like, well, we don't want them to fall down. It's like, well, why not? Because some of the things that we're doing are done out of fear, but not fear about them, fear about us. Like, we don't want to fall down. It's okay for a child to fall down. We don't want to fall down because we're going to break a fucking hip. Right? Like, we don't want to
Yeah.
fall down because we know how hard it is to get back up. These days, we have a different relationship with consciousness, and it's so important that we build resiliency in children, which means, like, this doesn't mean go ride a bike without a helmet on and, like, whatever, but it does mean that hurt happens, and it's okay to have that experience.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? That is one thing I will tell you. Watching the evolution of a child and the children around them. Um, I, you know, my child always floors me, and in that category, in that resilience category, and the ability to just come back and come
Yeah.
back in a better way than I could have ever imagined, in a way that, not losing optimism and hope,
Now,
and
this
not.
is you as an adult. Remember, like, you as a child may have had more resiliency, but it was trained out of you through leaders,
Yeah,
through
that's
people
true.
that have led you astray from having faith in yourself. That's what this is saying. Having created leaders, you gave your faith to your teachers or your partners or your parents. Their faith in Tao or self was diminished slowly. And you don't want to do that to your child. You want your child to know who they are.
Hmm.
That's so
And she
beautiful.
is unapologetically her. And
Yes.
my son is young, so we're still evolving. But she's been through a lot. I mean, very, very, some things most adults have a hard time having to navigate. Um,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to see her thrive and her go out and do the things that she can. And I did learn as time went on that that's just not the way. You cannot, regardless, you cannot protect them. You can't put them in a bubble. My son
Nope.
was born early, and it was around COVID time, so that was interesting. That was an interesting time. Um,
Yeah.
and so, that anxiety, that control, trying to make sure things don't happen. But the reality of it all is you cannot control it. And so, allowing him, because it was funny because I was so worried about, him bumping his head. Now,
Mm.
then he would get angry and bump his head on the crib. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, you can't, what do? You take him out of the crib, but the bump's going to happen at that point,
Yeah.
regardless. So the more, you try to coddle, the more you try to bubble, but finding that balance is really, in my mind, the key, and trying to find that area, that sweet spot, so to speak, of, how to govern, essentially, where they're able to spread their wings and figure things out. But also, be that person for them, for the support, or I guess figuring out how to meet them where they're at and figure out how to be what they need. But you also have to take care of yourself. So again,
So
it's a lot of
it could
balance.
seem really complicated.
Yeah.
I want to give you a little bit before you go,
Okay.
just to help with that. One, don't meet them where they're at. You can never do that because you have no idea what they're experiencing.
That's true.
So the more you try to quote unquote meet them with where they're at, you're actually um like, one, approaching them with a huge amount of arrogance that you can do that. One, and two, you are sort of disregarding their experience as being unique. And that really kind of diminishes them as individuals. And so what you want to do is meet them where you're at. Not that doesn't mean that you want to be like, look, I do this, you should do this. But it means, like, be an adult. Be responsible for loving them as they are from who you are. Because when you get to be who you are going to love them more because you are going to love you more. When you continue to say, I need to meet them where they're at, you're giving yourself expectations of not being you. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, you have to recognize they're 4 years old. Like, just like with my niece, I had to recognize you're 19. You don't understand what's going on around you. and I'm going to let you make your mistakes. And those mistakes aren't huge. It's not like I'm going to let her, like go hold the hand of a stranger and walk into a bathroom. You know what I mean? Like I have to meet her where I'm at, which means I know enough about stranger danger, right? Like to be able to like stop to keep them safe. But I don't have to. I can expect them to want to rise up out of the situation that they're in. Now, that doesn't mean I talk over them. I want to communicate because I love them. I want to be present because I love myself. I want them to feel loved. And so the only way that I can help them feel loved isn't to write out a list of ways people feel loved, because who is that list made for? If I'm the one writing it out, me. I feel loved when I get this. There was that book a number of years ago about love languages. Everybody has a different love language.
Mm-hmm.
Love your child, and you will align with their love language simply because you're inspired to. And that's what Tao does. That's what we're talking about here. When there
Yep.
are great masters, there are no leaders. You do not have to lead your child. You be a master of your life, and them connected to you will guide them to being a master of theirs, because we don't need leaders. We need people that are masters of their own lives. She works all day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. When your child wakes up or goes to bed at night and they say, man, I had such a great day, and you don't take credit for it, and you can't be seen as the one pulling the triggers and the levers and stuff, because they're actually living their life, but you're living yours. That's when everybody gets to be elevated. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I think what I meant by meet her where she's at, and that definition for me has changed
Yeah.
over the years, but it was more so trying to be more open to listening and be open
Yes.
to how she feels, and not always trying to manage, hey, I know the right way for you, and
Right.
also making her experience mine, because you see similarities in people, and but she's not me, and making that delineation. And years ago I couldn't do.
I'm sorry, Jacqueline. You got kicked out again because of my messed up timer. If you can come back in, I want to just wrap this up really quick, and that would be great. Thank you so much for coming back in, and I absolutely understand what you mean.
Sorry.
Go
um
on.
but no, thank you. I mean, I was saying that, I think a lot of the way I had parented years ago was because I don't know that I knew my self-worth and
Right.
loved myself. So everything that you said is extremely true. And coming to that place now where I'm allowing her to have her own experiences, that allowing allowing things to happen, and watch and allow them to speak, because your example with your niece, yes, I would have been like, just try it, and been, because I knew better, and then you
Right.
meet two
Yep.
people that know better and you're butting heads, and that battle, and navigating letting go. And it's only now, I think, in my life that I'm able to start looking at that, and start to let that go a little bit. And it's so funny because people say, oh, you're so relaxed. I am not a relaxed person. I have to really work hard to be calm about stuff and not get worked up. And it's something I practice every day, because I am not, that is not generally my default.
Right.
So really everything you said was great, because it's very, very true. And, once now we're at that stage where I'm evolving and now she's evolving. And I look
Yeah.
at, I'm not a good very good at planting, but I found love in orchids, and I'm trying to figure it out. And, I look at it and I see this, all the leaves fell off, the stem died, and I was like,
Mm.
oh man, what am I going to do? And I figured it out. I did what I thought, what was right, what I researched. I didn't go crazy. And I said, well, if it dies, I get another one, whatever. But it was so beautiful because this new flower stem started to grow right after.
Oh,
And I was like, well, isn't that something, And it was just, I didn't think it was hopeless. I just let it be. And it
yeah.
was amazing how, you
So
know,
amazing.
I looked at the plant. I was like, are you happy? Because they say you grow when you're happy. And my husband's looking at me going, are you okay? But it was very true. And then all of a sudden it grows. And I was like, wow, you know what? That's beautiful. And it is a nice balance to look at, things end, things grow, and not approaching those with fear is one of my new lessons. And all the stuff you said is really true. You have to find yourself. You have to do that self-discovery to be able to elevate the people around you. So thank you.
Well, they'll do the elevating on their own, but
Yeah, well,
you
elevate together, I guess you
that's
say.
right. Absolutely. And just like you said with the orchid, like Google can't be a leader. You have to have faith in yourself.
Yeah,
And you know how to love things because that's our default.
yeah,
Thank you
that's
so much
true.
for joining me.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Absolutely. You as well. Bye-bye. Okay. We're going to wrap up this because it's been an hour about, and I have somewhere to be in a little bit. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. Once again, this is a program that I'm going to be doing daily, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Central Time. And if you're interested in joining me, you can always pop up. And what we do is we just pick a number and I'll read you through the Tao that you selected, just like with Jacqueline and Millie. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.